Welcome back to my new daily segment called Morning Joe. Today, we're going to talk about a major problem that is pressing Reno. Illegal immigrants. Okay? So, even though they're working, a lot of them, the men of the households, are working. 63% of the women in the families of illegal immigrants are on welfare, making everyone's taxes through the roof. See, the men work, they make the money. But then the women use loopholes in the system for themselves to draw welfare. They have large families. They draw welfare for as many as 8 to 10 kids. Okay? Making the average income of the illegal immigrant household as much as $4,000 a month once they get through all the cash aid and food stamps. Okay, $4,000 a month. Once you count all the cash aid and food stamps, that's a lot. Okay? Most of them live 20 plus family members to a 2-bedroom apartment. Most of them are paying less than $20 a month for their rent. They're making thousands, but they're paying almost nothing because of the way they live. Okay? And sometimes the landlords, when these families move out, they have to repair damages to these apartments, and these damages usually surpass the security deposit left behind. The landlords are losing money because they have to make thousands extra in repairs. Also, illegals clam up the HUD system because of some loopholes that Obama put in place a long time ago. Health clinics, HUD systems, low-income housing, these guys clog it up, making the waiting list as long as 2 to 3 years before you ever get an apartment. And so with them clogging up the HUD systems, it also turns the neighborhoods where the HUD housing is in bad neighborhoods. It turns them into drug-infested and gang-infested neighborhoods because a lot of these illegals also have their young adult children living with them in the household. And these young adult children of the illegal households, most of them are gang members. They're gang members in Sureños, Norteños, MS-13, Latino gangs, okay? Most of them are Latinos, and most of them are members of Latino gangs. Therefore, it turns the HUD neighborhoods into gang-infested, drug-infested hellholes that regular low-income people wouldn't even want to live in because it's so goddamn disgusting. Is this really what you want Reno to turn into? Do you really want us to turn into a city with sanctuary status where we will basically harbor any illegal criminals from ICE deportation? Next, there needs to be serious investigations. Many departments in the city government. There needs to be financial audits every 6 months to make sure that the funds are not being wasted. Wasted resources could be used elsewhere where they're needed instead of being wasted. But it won't get done under Mayor Sheev. She books multiple resources to the police department so that they can buy old military vehicles that were used in Afghanistan for parking enforcement. Really? Come on. So the police department is just the first place that needs to be investigated. They play fast and loose with their positions with the exception of very few officers that I've met a very slim few that not only respect the law and respect the Constitution, they also know their place. But most of them have been out there with an ego on their shoulder, a chip on their shoulder. They act like their badges grab them absolute and unquestionable power, with no checks and balances. They act like they don't have to answer to anyone. So we need to assign investigators from the city within this department to oversee this kind of stuff and weed out the bad apples. We need investigations to be done right down to the chief of police. Okay? We need to evaluate over every arrest over the last few years and make sure procedures were followed by the book. Investigations into why it takes 10 cops for a traffic stop, if not only to put a show on for the public, because that's wasted resources that could be used elsewhere, making them more beneficial and reducing the 911 response time from an hour down to about 10 to 15 minutes. There needs to be investigations in the use of confidential informants, who they are, what crimes they were originally arrested for, and how reliable their word would be in court. RPD has 383 sworn officers and double that amount of road patrol. Why does it take 20 officers to stop one car? Or 10 cars, 2 officers per car. So why does it take 20 officers to conduct a traffic stop? That is what makes 911 response time around here so goddamn long. I mean, why do our tax dollars even pay their salaries if they're wasting the resources, okay? Seems our tax dollars are being wasted on even having a police force the way these motherfuckers act. So all this and much more needs to be investigated, and criminal charges need to be filed as well, as a part of trimming the fat from these departments and wasted resources in Reno. We must have all rookie officers partnered with a seasoned veteran their first year on the force to pass along wisdom and knowledge in proper police procedures. So, moving on, we also need to investigate the district attorney and evaluate every single conviction or case he has brought to them, especially the ones involving the CIs of RPD. Any arrest where the defendant claims they were defending themselves especially, but go over all the arrests with a fine-tooth comb. And then finally, we need to investigate all the city offices where the funds are being spent. Are they being wasted on shit? We need to trim the fat, cut back all the wasteful spending, and detour resources where they could be of better use. Upon the completion of all investigations, the city audit of where every dollar is going needs to take place. If some of our spending is wasteful, then we need to change that. I happen to know the police are buying retired military vehicles. And that poses another question. Are they preparing for some kind of local martial law? Or are they preparing to go to war with the people? Or perhaps they're even preparing to try and illegally confiscate your guns door to door. Mayor Sheev is a leftist Democrat. She believes city mayors should have a bigger voice in D.C. The woman obviously does not understand the difference between federal and local politics. Why would a city mayor first need a big voice in D.C. to begin with? Why would she want to vote Why wouldn't she want to focus on our local problems, like the homeless problems she helped create? A city mayor needs to focus on hearing the people at home and not worrying about her voice in D.C. or how big it is. The homeless population has dramatically increased since 2014. Before that, I would only see them like around the shelters and St. Vincent's Dining Hall, places like that. The shelters had plenty of room for all of them, but I mean, now the shelters are overflowing. People are sleeping in the streets, under bridges, along the river, in city parks and alleys, and even in children's playground equipments. Truck needles and feces are everywhere on the streets, along the river. People are sleeping everywhere. I mean, it was never this bad before. I've been coming to Reno off and on since 1994. I moved up here for my first time. I lived here off and on since 2001. 1999 when I first got an apartment up here. Then I lived back here in 2001, and then again in 2009, and then I finally moved up here permanently in 2015. But I have seen this homeless problem. It was never this bad before, all right? But it could get worse. Under the current mayor, I mean, by 2022, it's going to be so bad that you won't be able to walk down the sidewalk without tripping on a homeless person by the time her next term is up. Because it's obvious she's a Soros-funded globalist who just wants to destroy our city rather than help it. We as citizens can prevent this now. We can work together to protest the mayor, protest her friggin' policies. Call her out on taking payoffs that she did to close the monthly budget motels. The closing of these motels contributed to the homeless problem significantly. Several families with children were displaced due to her closure of these motels. She did these motel closure ordinances combined with using the motel interdiction team to shut down the budget motels. Why did she do this? Because she was paid off by the friggin' college, UNR, to do this. Lobbyists of university are the ones who paid her off to do this. They've been wanting to buy those old budget motels for years and turn them into student housing. They want to turn Reno into a college town. But anyway, if we don't do something about this soon, our place is going to look like Orange County in Maxine Waters District in California, where we've got tents popping up everywhere. I mean, we used to have tent cities that offered somewhat of a solution. But she got rid of those too as soon as she was elected. She made sure to friggin' shut down all those tent cities. At least they kept all the homeless in one area instead of spread out all over the sidewalks, parks, and everywhere you look. I mean, come on. The tent cities were a somewhat better temporary solution, and we need to reopen them. But Mayor Sheev won't hear of it. Okay, she's trying to turn Reno into a high income only and only the upper class are able to live here type of thing. Why does she want to do this? Because she wants to boost her own fucking social status. She may even want to run for office out in D.C. one day or run for governor of the state. I mean, we absolutely cannot let that happen if we don't want Reno to turn into a third world shithole, then we will stop this now. Okay? Let's get her out once and for all. Let's truly work together to make Reno great again. For love of our country and Battleborn. Thank you. And as always, remember, you can all put that in your pipe and smoke it.